Cancer, welcome to a general tarot reading for the last half of October. I did start one before, but I was doing a private reading and I just scooped up the cards. I'm going to just do the whole thing over again. I don't like to do two parts anyway and then have to put them together. So let's just do the whole thing over again. And I also wanted to say that you have a new moon in the 5th house of romance on the 30th of October in the sign of Scorpio. So that could be something new for some of you going on with a new dating situation perhaps, or a new creative project. Okay. So, the focus card is the Knight of Pentacles. Sometimes the court cards can be, characters in the play of your life. So this individual could possibly be a male. If we're looking at it that way, sometimes readers will say, well, it can be either gender, but I'm trying to be as specific as possible. So I'd say it could specifically be a male earth sign. This card is, connected to Taurus. I've connected it to Capricorn in the past. But it's somebody, it's almost like this plodding figure. This person who is just... all they're about is work. They could be workaholics, but they have like a goal in mind, a financial goal that they're trying to meet. And it's particularly, I would say, for their future. So they're just really hard at work. This could be just a general snapshot of you in time, of you being, a worker bee. And so that could just be that the financial and the career areas for you are what is in focus. In relationships, it would be somebody with that kind of a characteristic who is maybe not the most exciting person on the planet, but somebody who is very dependable and, who is very ambitious and very consistent, and wants to make a nice amount of money, and wants to maybe buy a house in the future, or some kind of goals, maybe wants to sock a lot of money away. It's interesting when I look to see what has been happening in the past. For some of you, there might be a stark contrast to a relationship with somebody who may have been literally a fire sign, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, or has that kind of signature in their personality where they're very volatile, very fiery. That's not all bad, because they can be very ambitious and very exciting and passionate about what their interests are, but you may have it might have been a combative and competitive relationship for some reason. And for you, Cancer, that is, the first thing I think about is, I think about Aries, because Aries is a very competitive sign. But, as I say, might be another fire sign. Yeah, Leo is right next to you also, and Leo might be the type that bristles if you are doing better than they are in their career. There might be a little bit of an ego situation happening, and that can sour the relationship even. If that person feels like they are inferior for whatever reason. You may be not lording it over them, but they may kind of take issue to it, with it. And so that Knight of Pentacles might be you. Maybe you're single and you're working a lot, and you are hanging out with the girlfriends, or, you know, it could be, it doesn't have to be female company, but it's something to do with celebration, or just socializing. Sometimes it could, if you are in the workplace, you may have a more harmonious workplace. Maybe you were working someplace where everybody was at each other's throats, or they were kind of stepping all over each other to get ahead. And now you're in a more collaborative situation. But in your personal life, this could also be just letting your hair down and not necessarily looking for love per se right now. Maybe you were in that situation and you're just focusing on work more than anything else. The higher message is about possible burnout, with the Ten of Wands. I think also with this card, it is worthwhile to say that you have to be careful too of, in romantic relationships, that you are making sure that you're not doing the heavy lifting, where you're kind of pursuing that person and doing everything to promote the relationship, and the other person's kind of dragging their feet. Maybe that's something you had in the past, but also in terms of just realizing when you're working too hard and making sure that you're getting fairly compensated and they're not just dumping extra work on you. The card that crosses you is the Wheel of Fortune. So I'm reading this almost like a reverse card. So there can be some areas of feeling misaligned in some way, where you're not feeling like everything is gelling perfectly. And this, I feel like sometimes this happens when people are trying to force something. So, for instance, in the workplace, I'm reading that card, the Knight of Pentacles, and I was reading it in a positive way. But it could be that you're trying to, put your nose to the grindstone because of the competitive atmosphere. And you're thinking that if you work harder, that somehow you're going to be rewarded. And this is, and the Ten of Wands is saying that, everybody has a breaking point, but also, what's fair is fair. Are you carrying a heavier load than you deserve to carry? And the Wheel of Fortune in reverse is almost like, too, I think it's almost like in the Law of Attraction, Abraham Hicks, they talk about going upstream and going against the flow. The Wheel of Fortune is about everything just aligning, right on time, and there not being this sense of, what would you call it? Having to make things happen too much. When people talk about trying too hard, it's because they're not really, it's not really aligning as it should. And so it kind of is counterproductive because of that. And this can also be in the realm of relationships, all of these cards. I mean, if you're the one who feels responsible for the relationship and you're kind of picking up the slack, the Wheel of Fortune is saying, is everything as it should be, or are you kind of going upstream? Are you trying to make things happen that are not happening? And sometimes you do have to step back and let go of the need to control things that are happening. As a cardinal sign, Cancer tends to think that if they take certain actions, they're going to make things happen. And sometimes that may be the case. But especially in the realm of relationships, you can't necessarily do that, because relationships are, dealing with two parties, at least two parties. And it's not the same thing to try to manipulate matter. Like if you're, somebody who is a carpenter and you're learning your craft, it's a lot easier to practice on a piece of wood than to try to manipulate another person. And sometimes the best thing you can do is just to let it all go and let go of the need to do it. And this is kind of like that kind of a card. The Three of Cups is almost like it's a release, it's a stark contrast to the Knight of Pentacles, really, really working hard, rolling up your sleeves, really working hard. Or the Ten of Wands, carrying such a burden, on your back. So, well, this is an interesting advice. The Three of Swords. This is a card of heartbreak. You know what this could mean, though, in the advice position is that you need to cut something out of your life very quickly. And obviously, this is a general reading, so not everybody is going to have this scenario. But if you have something that's kind of like on life support, a relationship, a job that you hate going to, and it's reasonable to do so, and it's not going to be foolhardy for you to do so, that might be what's going on. You're trying to kind of either hold on to something that's not working, or you're trying to get away from it, but you're doing it too gradually. Sometimes going away from something gradually is, a good idea, but sometimes it just prolongs the torture. And, the Three of Swords can even indicate like heart surgery, but it's like the surgeon's cut is very, very, it's very like quick and deep, and it's just like, that's it. So you might just cut somebody out and that's it. There's no going back. And you might just make up your mind that you've been hurt long enough. And this could be especially true if there's another party involved. Because sometimes, with the Five of Wands, there may be multiple people involved. Maybe you're dealing with somebody who's a womanizer. Maybe he has a lot of women, and I just like went into gender and said he, but I used the word womanizer, so that's why I said that. This is not slamming men in the least, but maybe there are a lot of people involved, and you have to accept the fact that somebody that you're with is just incapable of fidelity. but the Three of Swords is like a classic card of a love triangle. But I also think that it's very possible, and it's funny too, because then I get another three too. But it's very possible that this is just simply the idea of grieving a loss, accepting a loss, not pretending that it's anything but what it is. In some cases, with the Justice card, it's going to be that it's taken to that level of the law if this is a marital situation. For other people, when I see this Ten of Wands, I think of kind of an unfair situation. So it can be about making sure that things are balanced. With the Justice card, if you're in a work situation and you're being exploited, you're being asked to do the work of other people. And that's why I said about that Five of Wands is that sometimes especially nowadays, with all the way that it's been engineered to make it so that it's more dog eat dog crap, where people feel like, but that's everybody's fault who falls prey to that false, way of looking at it, is that if you believe the false narrative that there's only so much to go around, and we have to compete with other people to get what we want. If you believe that, see, competition in and of itself is wrong, because it's actually believing that there's a limited amount of anything. So if you're in the same business as somebody else, if you feel the need that, I have to compete with all these other people who are doing the same thing I'm doing, you're thinking that there's only so many clients or so much money to be made, and you have to make the lion's share of it. And so that kind of attitude does feed into why people end up, really degrading themselves and other people by trying to step over them to get ahead, and making life, unpleasant for everybody in a workplace environment or even in personal relationships. And if you feel like you have to prove yourself, the Five of Wands is like that. It's a very uncomfortable situation. And so the Justice card is about, knowing that if you have been the victim of, especially in this situation, if there's some kind of a situation, it could have been a betrayal at work or in a personal relationship, that there is cause and effect in the universe, and there's you don't have to feel like you were this victim and this injustice was done unto you, because there's probably like very few worse feelings than feeling victimized, feeling like you're being treated unfairly. It's very disempowering. So the Justice card is about knowing in your heart that all is happening in divine order, and even if it on the surface it seems otherwise, not to worry about it, not to feel like life is against you because of it. And so it can ultimately be a very empowering kind of a revelation. And even in your world, something may be righted. This Justice card is in the upright position, so you may see justice in your reality show up for you to kind of affirm that you are in the right. If you've felt like you've had some kind of situation that felt like the opposite of that. So in any case, Cancer, I hope you enjoyed this. If you'd like a private reading, please click on the link below. It takes you to my website. Otherwise, have a great rest of October. Bye.